Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Tuesday Night Live with independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, Teresa Harper. Hope everybody had a great weekend and a good day today. Let's see if I can get the feed up here so I can see who's on and see your comments. Let's see. Hello, Cynthia. Welcome, welcome. Hope everything is going good. Hello, Laura. And Jennifer. And go ahead and say hello when you jump on and where you're from if you're not local. And we are going to use the Merriest Moments bundle of products that I have out here in front of you. Tonight we'll be using these. The Merriest Moments stamp set can be purchased separately. The Merriest Moment frames and the Merriest Frames hybrid, or Merriest Frames hybrid embossing folder come in a bundle together. These the dies and the embossing folder are bundled together. You cannot purchase them separately, but you can purchase all three of these together as a bundle and save 10%. Okay, so we're going to be using those products tonight. They're different from most of what we have. And as you can see, they're on page 43 of the July to December mini catalog. And like I said, we've got some beautiful samples here, and I'm going to show you two samples tonight. We're also going to throw in the Angel of Peace stamp set on one of our projects. Thank you, Jennifer, for sharing. Appreciate that. All right. So let's go ahead. I want to show you here are some samples of these dies and the embossing folder. Show you how you can get different effects. And then it has this really nice stitch rectangle that is a different size than any of our other stitch rectangle dies that comes with this die set. And it comes so that it can cut out the center of this framed piece. Okay, so I'll be showing you tonight how to use those. We'll be using the Stampin' Cut and Emboss. And this will not fit in the mini, so you will have to use the large Stampin' Cut and Emboss. However, if you have another die cut machine, like the Big Shot or something else, these will work perfectly well with that, with those embossing machines. Okay? All right, so let's go ahead and let's talk about, there's a seasonal sale that will be coming up, and that will be coming up. I'm going to show you this on November 16th through the 18th. That is next week, beginning on Tuesday. And you will be able to purchase any cardstock from the annual catalog at 10% off, 15% of ink pads. That does not include any ink pad bundles or the Memento Tuxedo Black, the Stays On Versamark, those, because those are not actual Stampin' Up! Products. We have them on contract with their trademark companies. And then you can also get 20% off the dies that are in the annual catalog. Now, it's very important to point out that this sale does not include any items in the July to December mini catalog. Okay, so you'll be getting, we'll talk about that more next week on Tuesday when the sale actually goes live. All right, so let's begin with our first project. I'm going to pull in my supplies. And you're going to need a piece of evening evergreen. This is a quarter sheet of cardstock. So that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Then, oops, I just dropped some major pieces that I'll need. Those up real quick. I have die cut, stamped and die cut some images to save us a little bit of time. All right, so we're going to use the soft succulent and the evening evergreen to cut out our hybrid frames so I can show you how those work. You'll need a piece of basic white thick cardstock I'm using for my card base, and that is 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, scored in the middle at 4 1/4. And then you're going to need a piece of basic white for the inside panel, and this is cut at 3 5/8 by 4 7/8. And then you'll need a scrap piece of basic white to cut the center piece out of your die. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. We're going to start with that. I want to show you how these work and how easy they are to use. All right, so let me tap that. There we go, and that'll get any other pieces that I have out. We're going to take this first piece, which is the outside piece. And this will just cut us a basic image. But we're going to take that and we're going to use the evening evergreen. And let's bring in our Stampin' Cut and Emboss. Oh, and let me grab another cutting plate that I forgot, because you have to have 2 cutting plates. Okay. All right. So we're going to start, and this cutting plate is pretty beat up, but it will still work for the trick. So we're going to grab the embossing folder, the Merriest Frames Hybrid embossing folder, and with the Stampin' Up logo on the top, we're going to open this up, and then we're going to place our frame die in the embossing folder, and it will lock into place. It has a little groove to hold it in. So you'll put it in there, slide it, and then it'll just lock into place. And then we're going to put our piece of evening evergreen over the top. And I'm going to close up. Hello, Mary. It is nice to watch on the TV, isn't it? All right, so we're going to place that sandwich like that. And we're going to use our standard die cutting. No, we're not. Sorry. Let me grab the embossing folder plate. I need the 3D embossing folder plate. So our sandwich is going to be plate 1. And then we have our frame in our embossing folder with the spine forward. And then we're going to put plate number 4 on top of that. Okay, so plate 1, our sandwich, and then plate 4. And let's bring in the machine. And we're going to place that sandwich into the machine, and we're just going to run it through. Okay? And then when we take this out, it has embossed our piece, but not only has it embossed it, it cut it all at the same time. Okay? Pretty cool, huh? So we have that piece, we'll set it aside. And next, we're going to take this die, put this one away. We're going to take this die and our evening evergreen, and we're going to put this through like a regular cutting die sandwich. So plate 1, plate 2, plate 3, our die, and a top plate. Okay. And again, we're going to grab our machine and we're going to run that through. Okay. And then we'll have this piece. And we're going to poke out a few little excess chads that are hanging up in there. Okay. So now we have this piece. Not quite as impressive as this piece, but we're going to run this piece through a second time. Through the embossing folder. So let me grab that embossing folder if I can figure out where I set it down at. My goodness, I've just covered it up. Okay. So now we're going to take our sandwich again. We'll have plate 1. I'm going to take our Merriest Frames Hybrid folder. I'm going to take this piece that we just die cut, and I'm going to lay it back in my folder, and I'm going to line it up again on the top where the Stampin' Up logo is. I find this is the easiest because it just drops into the grooves. Line that up. I'm going to close this up, and I'm going to put it in my sandwich again. And I'm going to get my machine, and I'm going to roll that through. Okay. And now when I take it out, this is the piece that I have. Okay. And you can see all that deep 3D embossing that gives that so much detail. All right. So let's go ahead and do a little bit of stamping with our Merriest Moments stamp set. And we're going to grab a piece of basic white cardstock. Let me grab that because I did not grab a large piece here. Oh, that's a card base. Well, we'll just use these. It'll work. Let's grab some basic white. And we're going to stamp a few images here. We're going to take the large poinsettia from that set. And let me grab a piece of scrap paper. And I'm going to stamp this, the large one, in Cherry Cobbler. Okay. I'm going to stamp one of those. And then I'm going to stamp a smaller poinsettia. I'm going to stamp this in full strength. And then I'm going to stamp a second one, second generation. Okay. Then I need, I don't think I need that for this particular one. We're going to take the leaves from this set. And we're going to get Evening Evergreen. And we're going to stamp 2 large and 2 small in the Evening Evergreen. Or 2 large and 2 medium, excuse me, because there are 3 sizes of holly leaves. So we have the 2 medium. Now we need the 2 large. Okay. And then we're going to get some Sahara sand. Let me clean that off and this off so I can grab those blocks. Okay. And we're going to pull out these little ferns that we have. And we're going to stamp 1 each of those. Okay. Whoops. Let's try that again. Okay, and that should be all of our pieces. Except we needed to cut from a piece of basic white, that rectangle die. This one right here. We're going to cut that from a piece of basic white. All right? And we're going to use that for our sentiment. Okay. So you would take the coordinating dies that go along with this, which I now have. Oh, you would not believe my mess already. Okay, so we're going to take the coordinating dies and we're going to cut out our leaves. Now this, with the poinsettia, I look for this little crook here on that particular leaf, and then that will line up perfectly. For the smaller one, there's also one that has a little crook, and if you look for that, then that will line up perfectly. Okay? And we would run this through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss. And along with our fern dies, okay? So to save us some time, I've already done that. These are already cut out for you. Put those back on their magnet sheet before I lose them. All right. So now we can start putting our project together. I started this project. We need some Wink of Stella. And I have taken the Soft Succulent Stampin' Right marker and the Evening Evergreen Stampin' Right marker. along with the dark cherry cobbler Stampin' Blend. Taken these, and I just outlined the leaf portions to give this a little bit more definition and color those little holly leaves. Put on some Wink of Stella to make that stand out a little bit. And this is now ready for our project. Okay. Hello, Lynette Greenhill. Excuse me, everyone. All right. So we can go ahead and start assembling our card. If I can find what I did with all my pieces here. Here are my stamped and cut die cuts. Okay. We're going to take this rectangle and the Evening Evergreen ink pad. And I'm going to take the sentiment. Oh, apparently I don't have it out. So let me grab that. No, I do. Oh, here it is right here, right in front of me. Okay, so thinking of you this festive season. This is also from the Merriest Moments. I'm going to ink this up in Evening Evergreen. And I'm going to stamp this down in the upper portion, centered side to side of this rectangle. Okay. All right, beautiful. All right, that's all of our pieces we can start assembling. So we're going to take our basic white thick cardstock base, and we're going to burnish that score line. Okay. And then I wanted to have a little bit more dimension for this card. So when I cut these two, while they'll line up perfectly, I did not want that. I wanted a little bit more Evening Evergreen peeking from behind. So I'm going to take my first piece and I'm going to flip it so that it sits on the card opposite. And then I'm going to add my soft succulent to that. Okay. So I'm just going to grab a bit of Stampin' Seal. I'm going to put that only on this rectangular piece on the reverse. Okay. I'm going to leave all of these free. And I'm just going to line that up as best as I can, trying to make sure that my little rectangle underneath does not show. I don't want it to be perfect because the idea is to get a little extra dimension and more of the Evening Evergreen to show behind. Okay, so we have that. And now we can take our Thinking of You This Festive Season, and we're going to pop this up with Stampin' Dimensionals. Okay, and we've got those right here. Oh, those are all minis. Let me grab my regular size. Well, these will work. We'll use up the rest of this. Make sure that when you do this, you're on the reverse side. So let's go ahead and put some dimensionals there. Now I'm going to steer clear of the bottom for dimensionals so that I can place some things. So we're going to put this in the center. I'm going to give myself a little room in case I want to tuck some things. But I still want this to be well balanced. Okay, So we'll remove those release papers. And we're just going to place this in the center of the embossed rectangle. Okay, we'll just center that up. And then we're going to add this to our card base. And again, I'm just going to put Stampin' Dimensional here. I am going to put a little bit of liquid glue around the outside just to make sure that that sticks a little bit. Gets into those pockets. And then I'm going to add this to the front of my card. Now you will get some pieces that are going to stick over the edges here, and we will trim those off, but we're just going to try and line this up and get it as straight as we can. And that looks pretty good, so we'll give that a press. I'm going to go ahead and take my bone folder and secure that down. Okay. Now with this little piece here that's sticking over, I'm just going to go back and take my snips and snip that off. And snip that off. All right, and now we're ready to start adding our beautiful flowers. Okay, so we're going to have to decide if we're going to put our stamped off image in here. So let's take a look at our poinsettia, see how we want this to look. And lay that on, and I think that's what I want. So I want this one on top. So I'm going to take this, and with Bumblebee ink, there's a little tiny flower center in that stamp set, and I'm going to take the Bumblebee, and I'm going to do my best to center that in here, like so. Okay. Now we can get out our Stampin' Pierce mat, which I have thoroughly buried here. All right, well, let's grab a second one here. Let's take our Stampin' Pierce mat and our take your pick tool, and I'm going to use the putty end, and I'm just going to put that down in the center of my poinsettia. Give it a push, and then I'm going to do the same for the second layer, and I'm going to grab that third poinsettia and give that a push. Okay. I'm going to take some glue dots, and I'm going to add some glue dots to the center of my flower here. And I'm going to put my glue dot down on my flower, and then I'm going to add the second layer, making sure that I try to center that up as best I can. And I'll give that a press, and another glue dot in the center of this one. And then we'll stagger these petals. And let's see, how do we want this to go? Let's try this. That looks good. Bring back in that Stampin' Pierce mat. I'm going to take your pick, and I'm going to give that a good press to put those all together. And then I'm going to bend these tips on the bottom layer back just a smidge. It's for a little added dimension. Push these up. All right, and now our poinsettia is ready for our project. Okay, so we're going to set this here, and then we'll take our fern and Sahara sand. I want to put these down like so they stick up over here like this. I'm going to dry fit this, and then we'll stick these in. So let's go ahead and put these down. And for these, I'm going to use a little bit of liquid glue. And just stick that down there like that. Like so. A little bit more liquid glue. We'll put that in there like that. And then we're going to this down. I'm going to go ahead and take a mini glue dot and stick on the center of the back of my poinsettia. And I'm going to put this down here like so, and then I can just add in my holly leaves. Okay, for that, put a little bit of liquid glue on the back of this one and stick that in here like so. And I'm going to take a medium-sized one, and again, just a little bit on the bottom, and I'll stick that in there. Give those a press. And I'm going to come to this side, and we'll stick those something like that. So again, a little bit of liquid glue. Slide that in there. Give it a press. And give that a press. All right. So now let's grab some in color, some 2021 to 2023 in color jewels. And I think we're going to add a trio of these to the center of our poinsettia. So I'll use 2 small and 1 large, and I'll put that right in the center. And there is the front of our card completed. Thanks, Jen. I really like the evening evergreen and soft succulent together along with the cherry cobbler. They make a really nice Christmas red and green combo. For the inside of this, I have taken those 2 leaves and stamped them in the evening evergreen, and then I stamped one of the holly berries and cut that out and put that on the inside. This particular sentiment is from the poinsettia Petals stamp set that's in the annual catalog. But you could use any inside sentiment. You could even stamp right inside the card if you wish. I kind of like having the extra layer. And wait a minute, we need a piece of soft succulent. I thought I had that cut, but apparently I did not. So let me cut that really quickly. So this is our inside piece is 3 5/8 by 4 7/8. So we're going to cut a piece of soft succulent that is 5 by 3 3/4. And that will give us a very narrow border, but it will be enough to set that piece of cardstock off quite nicely. So we'll go ahead and add this to our soft succulent. So, and then we'll add this to the inside, and our card will be complete. All right, so there's our first project finished. What do you think? All right, so let's slide some of this stuff out of our way, and we will go ahead and get started with the next project. All right. So our next project uses the Merriest Moment bundle along with the Angels of Peace. And I'm showing you the catalog. It's on page 42, and I'm showing you this because I don't actually have the Angel of Peace stamp set. Sorry, let me move that down so you have a better view. I had pre-stamped some of the images while we were on our craft retreat, and I pulled out those images and I cut out one of the angels that I had stamped with the stitch rectangle die that's in the Merriest Moments. So this particular die right here. So I stamped one of those. I had one of those angels already stamped, and I cut it out with that rectangle. And then I colored it with my Stampin' Blend. So here is that piece already completed for you. Now let me grab my, I'll grab the Stampin' Blends that I used to color this with so you can see. I used the light and dark soft succulent for the holly leaves, and the light and dark polished pink along with the light cherry cobbler to color her dress. I used that 3 combination, and then I colored her headband up here, her flower band, with the light and dark cherry cobbler, and I also used the soft succulent Stampin' Right marker because it has the smaller tip that I could get in a little bit easier with here. All right, and I dotted with the dark, or with the cherry cobbler Stampin' Right marker on the holly berries there. I highlighted the wings with light smoky slate and then smoothed that out with the color lifter. The face is done with light and dark petal pink, along with a little bit of light flirty flamingo for the cheeks. I colored her hair with the light and dark crumb cake combo. Okay, and I think that's it. All right, so if you wanted to recreate, those would be the Stampin' Blends that you would need. All right, so We're also using the Tidings of Christmas designer series paper. This is a 6x6 designer series paper pack, and you get 48 sheets of those designs. So we're going to be using, we have a piece of that, and we're going to use this pattern, and this is cut at 4 by 5 1/4. Again, we're using a thick basic white card base, standard 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, scored at 4 1/4. Right. Then you'll need just some scraps of basic white to do a little stamping of some evergreen, of some holly leaves. And then I've already taken from the evening evergreen, a piece of evening evergreen. I stamped, or I die cut and embossed that second image. So I cut it first, like I just showed you, and then I ran it through the embossing folder to get this. And to these 3 batches of leaves, I added some Wink of Stella to give that a little shine. All right. So for this, you're going to need 2 sets of the holly berries in cherry cobbler. Okay. So we'll get those holly berries. And we're going to stamp those in cherry cobbler. Okay. And then with soft succulent, you are going to need 2 of the medium and 2 of the small holly leaves. And I have already stamped and die cut those to save us a bunch of time. Okay. So we have those pieces. All right. So let's go ahead and start putting this together. So first we're going to start with our card base in basic white. Line up those edges and burnish that score mark. Okay. Then we're going to add our piece of Tidings of Christmas, DSP, to our card base. All right. Then, we're going to add this piece with a little bit of Stampin' Seal just in the rectangle. And we're going to turn this, how do I want this? I want this like this, I think. Not that it really matters. Either way will work. And we're just going to center that up. Let me get my fingers out of the way so I can see better. I don't know about you guys, but I cannot work without my tweezers. And all I'm trying to do here is get that rectangle to look like it's straight and center these between the DSP edges. Okay, so we're going to go with that. And then we're going to add this, and I did not pop this up. I'm just going to add it with Stampin' Seal. I'm going to put that right here in the center. And then we're going to take our holly leaves, and we're going to go over the top. Actually, you need 3 of the smalls. We're going to go over the top of these sets of holly leaves. and add those to our project. So let's go ahead and grab some liquid glue because we want to keep that, because this is embossed, we want to ensure that we have good contact. So really, I'm just putting liquid glue down the center. Let's see, we're going to put the medium one over the top of that one. And then we'll take the small one and add that here. And then to that, we're going to add our holly berries. Like so. I want to put them on, but I want to make sure that I don't cover up my angel. And then I'm going to add my medium holly berry over here. My smaller one, like so. And then the last one goes here. Thanks, guys. I'm glad you like those cards. Okay, here we go. We'll put this last set of holly berries right here at the junction of those three. And the final part for this is that we need a sentiment. Okay? So we're going to take a small piece of that Whisper White, basic Whisper White, this is just the regular stuff. And we're going to take Merry Christmas. And this comes from Banner Year, I believe. Let me double check. No. Where did I get this one from? Darn it, I should have written that down. Give me just a minute and I will remember. Peaceful Deer. This Merry Christmas comes from Peaceful Deer. But you could use anything. You could use the Season's Greetings that is in the Merriest Moments stamp set, and it would work just as nicely, but I really wanted it to say Merry Christmas. So I'm going to take Evening Evergreen, and I'm going to stamp the Merry Christmas. Okay. Oh, and I need that ink pad back. Then I'm going to take my paper snips, and I'm going to snip this out. And I'm going to angle cut the edge. And then I'm going to cut this pretty close to the top of my sentiment. Okay, and then I'm going to angle cut it over here on this side. And again, cut along the bottom of the sentiment, pretty close. Okay, so I'm going to take my tweezers, you can take your hands, and I'm just going to dip it, the side, in the ink. And I'm going to rotate it and dip the end and rotate and dip the side and do the last side. And now it looks like I have just the tiniest border of green, of Evening Evergreen. Makes it appear as if I have an extra layer. Okay, so now I'm going to take my mini glue dots And I'm going to add those to my sentiment strip. And my sentiment strip just fits the mini dimensionals if I place them strategically. And we'll add this right across here. I want it below the holly leaves, and I want the bottom of the dress sticking below the sentiment. All right, so there is the front of our card. For the inside of our card, I took another sentiment from the Merriest Moments, A Joyful Christmas to You and Yours. And then second generation soft succulent, I stamped one of those little fern leaves and added the bottom part that I cut off of this piece of DSP. I added along the edge for a decorative edge. And then I'm going to add this to the inside of my card. All right. So there's that card. And I stamped a poinsettia on the envelope. Let me bring back in the first project. And here is the envelope for that project. Did some holly leaves on the front and those fern and the Merry Christmas on the back. And those are our projects for tonight. Jennifer, thank you. Cynthia, thank you. I'm so glad you guys like those projects. I really like this bundle. You can easily make very quick cards. All you would have to do, put down a little bit of designer series paper, cut out one of those, cut this, put your sentiment on it, and that could be your card. It could be as simple as that. But I think these added little touches really make the difference. So I hope you like that bundle. And those are my projects for tonight. Thanks for joining me, everybody. I'm so happy that you are here. And I will see you again next Tuesday night at 7:45 for another Tuesday Night Live. Hope everybody has a great week. And next Tuesday, don't forget, it starts the sale of cardstock, ink pads, and dies from the annual catalog. So you'll want to make your list and get that ready so that you can place your orders early so we don't run out of cardstock and things. All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you.